Hello, welcome back to Teacher Jeff 40K. I have wanted to do a video like this for a while now, where I want to talk about some general tips and tricks for saving money while playing 40K, or I mean any miniatures game really. Actually, you could get away with you can get away with a lot, and this doesn't necessarily mean you're cheating or doing anything wrong. But if you play your, I don't want to say your cards, but if you play your pieces, your parts right, you can end up saving a lot of money, and actually get very, very creative in the process. So one thing that I've always loved about the hobby of 40K, and the hobby is really the key word there, is that you can customize your own models. You can clip things, cut things, chop things, attach things, and make your own very personal army. And that's always been the allure for me. Some people really like to make an army exactly as it's shown in the book, and that's fine. But in some cases, it will end up costing you a lot of money. For some people, that's not a problem. For me, it's a bit of a problem. So I like to find ways, one, to get creative, and two, to save a little bit of cash where it counts. A lot of the times, the kits for 40K, the different sprues when you get them, sort of like these here. Whoops. These sprues here, when you get these, you have a limited or set number of parts. And very often, with a lot of the newer kits, you have one way of building a certain unit, and you end up with a lot of extra bits. This is a good thing, but it also kind of sucks, because it means that you cannot build several squads out of one box, or several units out of one box. You can build one of them, and then you end up with extra bits. Now, once you've accumulated a bunch of those bits, there are different ways to sort of get creative by attaching pieces together or customizing your own models. And sometimes, if you move things around enough and you have enough bits, you can make entire new models or new units out of just extra bits without even paying any money. You just use the stuff you've already got. So I'd like to show you a couple of models and a couple of examples of ways that you can save money. Number one, this is a very rudimentary version, and this is certain models have attachment points that don't even need to be glued to be held in place, and they allow you to change some parts. So as an example here, I've got a Tau hammerhead, and so the Tau hammerhead is equipped with a railgun. Now you can also equip this with an ion cannon. That can be swapped in and out as well by simply changing the gun. I didn't do that, but my example is something else. So you can actually do that, where you remove this gun piece from this sort of turret mounting here that turns, and you can swap out either the railgun or the ion cannon, depending on what you choose. But the example I wanted to show was this. I've taken this out, and I have attached all the parts that came in the same box as this to make the Skyray gunship. So all these parts here come in the box, but you only get one of the big main chassis here. So this allows you to choose. You can choose if you want the Skyray, or if you just pop this off, you can put that in there, and you've got yourself a hammerhead. Of course, you can't play with both in the same game, but it does allow you a couple of options if you want to swap some things out. And if you want to get really, really creative, you could pop this off, put the little top piece back in here, And if you find a way to attach a burst cannon here, you can get yourself a devilfish transport as well. So this piece does not need to be attached as well. You can simply slot it in there and boom. You have got yourself a hammerhead. If you're really creative, a devilfish or a skyray. So it's important to note that in the same box, you get the parts to build either a devilfish or a skyray, but you can always swap out the top pieces. This is one of the simplest forms of swapping that you can do. It doesn't require any alterations. It just means don't glue certain pieces down. So the top turret, for example, don't glue it down. It's always a good idea to, when you buy a new kit, to sort of assess, look at the parts you've got, see what you can do, and try to visualize how those parts come together, so that if you do find a spot like this where something could come off and be something else, you don't glue it down right away. So that's one of the most obvious ones. Another one I've got, let me see here. Yes. I've given this example before, and it's the old Rhino Razorback question. So this one actually is a couple of modifications in one. So I bought a Razorback kit, and I built, I don't have the piece here actually. Hold on, I'll get the piece. Might as well get all the visuals in here so it's nice and easy to understand. Here we go. I got it. So initially, I put this guy together as a Razorback. I'll remove that, with a twin heavy bolter on the top. So I've got a storm bolter and a twin heavy bolter. And actually, I customized this storm bolter piece as well. This small top canopy thing is from a Vindicator, so reusing parts there too. So this is sort of standard, minus the minor modification here. So you would get, in the kit, you would get a Razorback with a storm bolter and twin heavy bolter. There are also some other extra parts, including smoke launchers and a hunter-killer missile, and some of these cool like mechanical bits, like the cables right on top there. It's worth noting, though, that they do actually supply you in the kit with the top doors. So you could remove this and turn that into a Rhino. So it's no longer a Razorback, it's a Rhino transport. Again, a very, very rudimentary change. You could easily use something like sticky tack to just hold it in place under it. Or if you really feel like magnetizing it, you can do that too, but that'll cost you a little bit more cash. I'll show you some magnetizations later on as well. So yeah, there you go. In the same box, again, you get the Rhino or the Razorback. Now, very important to note, if you buy the Rhino box, you will not get the Razorback pieces. If you buy the Razorback, you will get both the Razorback and the Rhino pieces. So it's actually worth it when buying Space Marine transports to buy the Razorback kit so that you can actually make both, depending on which one you'd like to use. Unfortunately, the Razorback kit only comes with two different heavy weapons on top, the twin heavy bolter and the twin las cannon. And you can only make one. This shield piece and sight thing on top, and this, the most important part that allows the parts to move here. Oops, haven't painted under there. That's embarrassing. Those are only one in the kit. So this circular thing that fits in here to this top, there's only one of those. Fuck this up. There we go. The top piece right here and the little aiming thing, those, there are only one of those in each box. So you kind of have to choose with your heavy weapon. But the second modification I wanted to show you, one, again, you don't have to keep this clipped down. So you can take these parts apart, bang, Rhino. But another modification that I've chosen to do with this one is I kept a Razorback and I put together some pieces from my Tau army. So I used two burst cannons, A couple of extra side pieces I got from a Storm Raven. No, a Storm Talon. So there are some side pieces for a Storm Talon with I guess bolter chunks on there. I think these are supposed to be for the heavy bolters, but it looks like there are bullets inside, right? And then I put a little little thing on the back. I went through a little bit of trouble kind of getting something that could making something that could be placed on top. It's kind of hard to see, but this is just a collection of pieces. You could very easily do something like this with a lot, as long as you get something that allows you to put this on top. You now have a Razorback with twin assault cannon. So it's not the official piece, yes, but again, it's one of those things that as long as you discuss it with your opponent, you show your opponent, you're allowed to do this. There's nothing saying that you have to buy the official model. Now, if I had the twin heavy bolter and I said it was a twin assault cannon, that's a different story. That's, for a very friendly game. You're doing stuff that's not necessarily what you see is what you get. If your opponent's with it, okay with it, that's cool. But some places or some players will be kind of uncomfortable with it. But you can, again, always get creative and make your own bits. And again, this is not attached or anything. If you wanted to take some, I like to use blue tack sometimes. Just put it under there, bang, right on top. The issue with magnets sometimes, and why I don't magnetize some pieces, is because you do have to carve holes into the areas you want to magnetize. I'll give you an example. I've got, where are they? I thought I had some here somewhere. Oh, shifting the camera there. All right, well, as you can tell, I am incredibly well organized. I have everything in my place in order. Geez, I've got a bunch of these sprues with like 4 parts in them each. I should just get rid of those. Anyhow, I've got magnets around here somewhere, but they're very, very, very tiny, and you can easily put them into tiny slots and attach certain weapons. And while it works for some models, for others, and I believe for this one, it doesn't. So a little bit of blue tack right under there, bang, right on top. You've got yourself a Razorback with twin assault cannon. So interesting to note, the assault cannon, the twin assault cannon, doesn't come in any of the regular Space Marine kits. You would have to get it from Forge World. So that's one of the big reasons I made this. Forge World is ludicrously expensive. While the models are very nice, they're very, very expensive. So not going to pay for that. Anyhow, so that's another one. And again, some other models. So here, I'll give you an example of some magnetization. Here I have a broadside battlesuit. So his secondary weapon system, because it's equipped like this, I just popped it off. So he's got twin smart missile systems, bang, attached. Or, I think I've got them around here somewhere. Let's readjust. There we go. There we go, that's better. Oh yes, here we go. So I've actually put the other parts together for the twin plasma gun. So I can attach that as well should I want to. I haven't painted these yet, but it allows me the options. So in the kit, they give you these parts, but the model, the unit, can only attach one of them. So don't glue these on. This is another example. Don't glue them on. Look at the parts first, and you can just attach it. This is something you could easily magnetize, because all you've got to do is put a magnet right there, and in that little slot, and kadoosh. Man, imagine if you could have both. That'd be awesome. Anyhow, you've got that. But then an example for magnetization. One, I've actually magnetized this little shield generator that I've given him, and it kind of sticks on there. But also, the main weapon, I magnetized this badly, I might add. So don't follow all my examples. Just the general idea is the right thing. But I've used, see, you have these small magnets right here. Now, some of you people who play regularly, you probably already know this. I'm not telling you anything new. But for a lot of new players, you could usually find these at hobby shops. Some like specialist hardware stores may have them, but usually they do not. So if you've got a good hobby shop in the area, they probably have these. So, and actually Games Workshop does not sell these. I have a feeling it's because they want you to buy more kits. They don't want you magnetizing things to save money and time. They want you buying more so that you have one of each of everything, and you pay for more models, which is fine. They're a company that sells something, so that's how that works. So this guy can either take the high-yield missile pods, like this, or if I detach these, come on, I have also got the heavy rail rifle attachment, like that. So he can take the heavy rail rifle instead of the high-yield missile pod. So game to game, I can swap this guy out should I want to. So that way, I don't have to buy two of these. I mean, if I want to use two in-game, I'll have to buy a second one. But that being said, if I do get a second one, I could have two with the rail rifles, and then I could swap them out at some point in another game, for example, and have two with the high-yield missile pods. So there's another example. I'll put him back there with, what are we going to give him? We'll give him the twin smart missiles and the plasma. Illegal, but it looks really cool. There we go, lots of guns. So yeah, you can do that too. And then the shield gen. There we go. You can do stuff like that too. So that's how magnetization works a little bit. And here, as another example, I've got a Space Marine character. I use this as a captain and a lieutenant. There's no real distinction between the captain and lieutenant in modeling terms. So as long as it's declared and they have the appropriate equipment that you've given them, then it's okay. And this is true for a lot of different models. Some models will look very similar to other units in your army, with the exception of some war gear and maybe some fancier looking stuff. So for example, these little badges or whatever, if you add more of these, makes them look more, I don't know, veteran-y, gives them more stuff. So what I've done with him is his gun arm, I have a special issue bolt gun here, or a master crafted bolt gun, and I've attached it with a very small magnet. Somewhere around here, if I can find it, I've also got a plasma pistol to swap it out, should I want to change it for the characters. So there's another example. You can use it for your special characters. If one game you want to go really cheap, you know, equip this guy with, say, like a chain sword and a bolt pistol or something, and then for another game give him a power fist and something else. So you can do that as well. So that way you don't have to build multiple characters and keep buying models. You can use one that can fill a variety of roles in different games. And to sort of expand on the idea of using models for different purposes, I've taken a lot of tactical Marines and turned them into Stern Guard veterans with special issue bolt guns. So Stern Guard veterans are basically Space Marines. They just have better weaponry and their stats are different. So you could go out and buy the Stern Guard kit, but I find that kit is actually one of the biggest ripoffs because it's only 5 models and it's 5 like Space Marine size models for $60. That's Canadian. So it's probably about 50 US, which is absurd for 5 models. You do get a lot of extra parts, this is true, but you get 5 bodies to put weapons onto. So it's a shame too because a lot of the parts look incredibly cool. A lot of the special bolt guns look really cool. They've got neat drum magazines and stuff like that, combi weapons, all sorts of cool stuff, but not worth the $60. So what I've done is I've taken a bunch of regular Space Marines and I've added parts to them to make them look more like veterans. So this guy, I've given him a little purity seal there. I've added parts to his weapon. So I've added the butt plate from a plasma gun, and this I think is from an old Tau flamer. I've added it as a suppressor to make it look like he's got a special issue bolt gun. And then also I've added a couple of Tau parts to sort of make him look distinct and given him a separate paint job. So while you are using the same models as tactical Marines, as regular Space Marines, as long as you kind of distinguish them in certain ways, it shouldn't be a problem. So I've painted these differently from the other guys. Most of the guys in my army are of this color scheme, the bright green. So the Stern Guard veterans will, oops, sorry, buddy. Oh, no, whatever. The Stern Guard veterans are this sort of steel color, so they're very distinct. They've got extra parts. I've customized most of their bolt guns to make them special issue bolters. It's allowed me to get creative, but it's also allowed me to save money. And I've got a couple of Tau examples as well. A couple of Tau characters, namely the Cadre Fireblade and the Firesight Marksman. Now, to get a Firesight Marksman, you would have to buy a whole kit of 3 sniper drones and the Firesight Marksman for, I can't remember how much, but I remember it being overpriced. And I didn't want to do that, because in 8th edition now, you can simply take a Firesight Marksman as a support character. And I didn't want to buy the whole kit just to get one model. So what I did is I took some extra parts and I put them together and made my own Firesight Marksman. The legs, the torso, and the arms are all extra pieces from either a Hammerhead kit or a Devilfish kit. You get the legs, the torso, and the arms holding the binoculars. And I found those appropriate as a marksman. You know, he's got binoculars to mark targets, maybe, or to look for targets anyways. So this model is equipped with a marker light, which I'm saying is going to be his, his binocular thing here, or mononocular, I guess, because it's only one. Monocular? Is that a word? Anyhow, that's his marker light, and he's got a pulse pistol. So I've sort of shaved down the parts of a bolt pistol, put it there, and that's his pulse pistol. And I gave him sort of a weird little head. I had a Scion kit, Tempestus Scions. I shaved the nose off and made him look more Tau-ish and then painted him blue. So now he is a Firesight Marksman. Nice and easy. He's got the appropriate equipment, and when I discuss it before a game, I say this is a Firesight Marksman. I declare what it is. And the same goes for the Cadre Fireblade. I've got 2 of those. So I've added some parts from different kits. So this is from an old Fire Warrior kit. I've given him what he's supposed to have. He's got his grenades. He's got a pulse rifle right here. I've also given him that same piece, you'll recognize this from here, to act as his marker light. And I've given him a unique pose to sort of make him stand out from my other Fire Warriors. So he's also got this sort of bonding knife thing on the side here. He looks unique compared to my other Fire Warriors in his stance and with the monocular thing here. So he becomes a Firesight Marksman. And another one, I've actually made 2, is this guy here. And you might have seen him as well from my Firesight Marksman video. I have given him sort of a skull head. I've done this with a few characters. You can kind of see a theme. I love these skull heads. I've given him a skull head, but also I've customized his pulse rifle, where I've extended the barrel and I've added a different scope. I've given him, again, one of those little bonding knife things. So sort of made him a little unique compared to my other Fire Warriors. So he really stands out. And I don't have to buy the model for about 20 bucks. I simply take one of my Fire Warriors, customize it a little bit, and he becomes a Firesight Marksman. Now, these are all just examples, but there are many, many ways you can do this. For any army, really, magnetizing parts, especially for Space Marines or Chaos Space Marines, is easy on the arms because they've got these sort of larger arms that are more friendly to attaching these tiny magnets. But I mean, this is all armies can do this. I know that Imperial Guard tanks like Lehman Russes are particularly easy to customize when it comes to side sponsons. So they have these little accepting spots. I guess the male and female parts that fit in together. If you put magnets in there, you can swap out the sponsons from heavy bolters to plasma cannons to whatever else you can put there. Again, spans across all armies. So general tips. One, if the kit doesn't have it, you could probably make it somehow. Two, always keep your extra bits. Three, just because the model is a different unit doesn't mean you can't take an existing unit and customize it into something else in order to save money. And four, always look at the sprues. Cut out all the pieces, don't glue them together right away. Have a look, try and see how things come together before you glue them, so that if there are options to fit multiple weapon systems or try different things, then you can do that very easily. And then one final tip, and this sort of goes for general hobbying when it comes to models and miniatures. The paints for Games Workshop, the paints themselves are good. The paint pots are garbage. I feel as though they're designed to fail. They have this weird ring at the top. It's got this sort of plastic, rubbery, malleable top that for some reason attracts the paint to the inside of it. It crusts up, slowly lifts the top up each time you close it, and the paint will dry out. They're badly designed, and I think they're intentionally badly designed. And they're expensive. There are plenty of other companies. I'm not going to openly endorse anything, but I'm just going to say there are other options out there. These models do not need to be painted with the paints that Games Workshop supplies. There are other paints out there. Number two, the same thing goes for glue. The run-of-the-mill crazy glue from the grocery store, or I get mine at the pharmacy, does the exact same job. Get the stuff that says advanced or extra strength or whatever, and you will be fine. You don't need the Games Workshop glue, and you don't necessarily need, I mean, this is going back, so you won't really need to deal with this now. There used to be a plastic glue and a metal glue when pewter models existed, and actually the regular glue from the pharmacy worked on both. So you don't need to buy the official product. And that also goes for the modeling tools. There are a bunch of the modeling tools that are very easily simulated by other regular workshop tools. I have a box of X-Acto knives with different heads on it. I use that. It's incredibly cheap compared to the official Games Workshop stuff. There are a bunch of like tiny little tools that have like one purpose, and they're like $40. So you don't need to buy those things to effectively do well in the hobby. So for example, I don't use clippers to take my parts out of my sprues. You can do that, that's fine. But what I like to do is over a mat, I've got this sort of durable mat. Over a mat, I take a very fine X-Acto blade and I just cut them out. So with a regular, hell, you could use a decent box cutter to do the same thing. It may be a little difficult with the box cutter for some of the finer parts, but if you've got an X-Acto knife or just a very, very sharp, fine blade, you should be able to do it. You don't need to buy the Games Workshop clippers to get them out of the sprues. They're not the only things that take things out of sprues. So just that's something to keep in mind as well. You don't need to buy the official products. Test a few things out, see how they work. Oftentimes you will find something that is cheaper. So be very aware of that. If anyone else has any just sort of general modeling tips specifically to save money, please mention them in the comments below. I'd love to hear them as well. I'm always looking out for new stuff. And I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.